And one thing that I done or adopted recently was not just journaling in my specific journals, but also in my diary. So the day-to-day diary that I would put all my checklist in, I have this new concept where I go green for gratitude. So at the end of each day, I just go back and think about what's happened in the day and just write in green the things that I'm grateful for. It really improved my outlook on life, because I think it's sometimes really overwhelming to look at all these lists of things that you need to get done. And maybe one day you've just felt really down or just been tired, you deserve a rest. And so I kind of look back and I'm like, oh wait, I know I should have done all of these things. I haven't been productive. But by doing this green for gratitude thing that I've been doing, it's allowed me to see that actually, okay, well, I didn't do all the things I had planned out to do, but yeah, I still had a good day and there's still things to be grateful for. And that in itself is something that's powerful, and I should not take that for granted.
Hey, my name is Anisha Patel, and I'm obsessed with all things career development. Whether that's navigating your professional journey, gaining clarity, or building the confidence to reach your goals, I'm here to support you in crafting your roadmap to success. I've grown a podcast that has reached thousands of people across the globe. I'm growing an online business, and I'm stepping outside of my 9-to-5 to build a career of my dreams. I've walked the path of transformation myself, and now I'm here to share insights, strategies, and stories to help you carve out a career that you love, or even a podcast you've been dreaming of creating, but you've not taken the leap to start yet. If you want to connect with me in between podcast episodes, I share my personal career insights and behind-the-scenes stories with my newsletter community, which you can join using the link in the show notes. This is the Pharmacist Diaries podcast. Hey there, pharmacy family. Welcome back to the Untold Stories of Pharmacy Students series. Today, we're tackling something every single one of us can relate to. Those moments when pharmacy school gets really tough. Now, let me ask you a question before we dive into today's episode. Have you ever looked at your module and thought, there is absolutely no way I'm going to get through this? Today's episode is going to be your ultimate survival guide. Meet Martina Aikon, BPSA's annual conference organizer, and honestly, just a total boss when it comes to turning academic challenges into opportunities. Born and raised in London, Martina crossed borders to study at Swansea University with a passion for chemistry, but without the traditional A-level biology background. Now, let me take you back to those first-year biology modules. I remember them just as much as you do, and they were pretty brutal. But instead of drowning in textbooks or pulling endless all-nighters, Martina developed a game-changing strategy that transformed her entire approach to studying. From discovering lifesaver YouTube channels to journaling techniques that changed everything, Martina's sharing her toolkit of resources that actually work. This isn't just another study tips episode. She's giving you practical steps that you can implement right away. Whether you're struggling with a tough subject, feeling behind, or if you've ever wondered if you even belong at pharmacy at all, get ready for 3 game-changing strategies that will completely reshape how you approach your pharmacy studies. Grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into this week's conversation with Martina. Hello.
Hi, Anisha.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Same here.
I'm excited because this is round 2 of us doing our episodes, and we've been liaising with each other for, I think, nearly 5 months now. So it's finally coming to fruition and a reality. So thank you so much for making the time for me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's dive into the kind of first area or the first strategy that we really want to talk about, and that's how you've turned your challenges into sort of opportunities. Now, take us back to when you started pharmacy school. And in the first year, as you know, there's a lot of chemistry and biology, and you love chemistry, so I'm sure that was relatively easy for you. But then you didn't do A-level biology. So tell us, what were the challenges with coming into pharmacy without that biology background, and how did you turn that into your advantage?
Yeah, so as you rightfully said, for us in Swansea, during our first year, we had 3 main modules. And though they had fancy names or specific titles, we just knew them as biology, chemistry, and pharmacy practice. And for the biology, the biology module was mainly cell biology, microbiology, an introduction to pharmacology, as well as anatomy and physiology. But I hadn't actually done the biology at A level, and so I was basing my biology knowledge on GCSE, and I'd kind of missed out on those advanced concepts that you would learn during A level. So coming into uni with this new degree, excited, new experience, it was a lot to kind of tackle, considering I hadn't had that biology background. And I remember there was this one lab report that we had in November. And I remember sitting in the library day and night trying to, complete it. And I was really optimistic about it because I believed I had understood the assignment and what was expected of me. But then I got the mark back and I looked and I was like, oh, well, okay, this isn't bad. Obviously, I passed, thank God, but it wasn't as high as I was expecting. And I remember looking at it and I was like, oh, maybe it's because I didn't have that biology background at A level. And I remember speaking to my parents about it and they were like, oh, Martina, okay, well, are you sure the lack of biology at A level isn't going to impact you? Is there any extra support that you may need? And I thought about it and I was like, okay, cool. So I went back, and because we had January exams as well, I thought, okay, let me just start to see how extra support I can get. And in December time, there was a revision session for the different modules. And one of our program directors recommended this YouTuber, Professor David Explains. And she actually recommended his YouTube channel for those struggling with chemistry. But I was like, okay, let me just have a look at it anyway, just in case it might be a benefit. And then I came across this channel where it had biochemistry videos, it had cell biology, molecular biology, all these different topics within the biology module that I'd been suffering or struggling with. And I started looking through them, watching his videos and using them in addition to my lecture notes as well and the lecture recordings. And then I noticed actually, this is actually quite beneficial. So I used that to aid my revision, sat the exam and I got a higher grade, 100. I was really happy with it. But then I looked at the grade in comparison with the other modules and I noticed that there was a bit of a gap. And it wasn't bad, it was a really good score, definitely an improvement from the lab report. But then I said, okay, well, I think there's room for improvement still. So I spoke to my module lead about this and he was like, okay, cool, let's get your paper, let's look at what you've done, your responses, your answers, and let's see where it is your strong points, your weak points, and then help you kind of, move forward from there. So we basically sat down together for about an hour, broke down the paper, saw the different parts where, my score was maybe not as great, or the parts where my score was really high. And he gave me tips on examinations, how to approach them. And one thing he told me, which I've never forgotten, was how if it's a paper-based exam, always include a drawing. So even if I remember there was, in the summer exam, there was a question on the renal function. And I remember just drawing the different renal tubules because that advice had stuck with me. And so that was really beneficial and really helped me. So in addition to the YouTube videos, speaking with my module coordinator, and also using the library resources available for the summer exam, I had significantly improved from the January exam and I had a 10% difference and I was much happier with my score. And so, it was really, really useful having all these different resources available. And I think for me anyway, one thing that really shocked me was that I actually did go speak to my module coordinator because growing up, during secondary school, sixth form, during parents' evening, they'd always tell my parents, oh, Martina's great, but she should learn how to ask more questions if she's struggling. So it was a really, really big improvement for me to actually see that I had actually gone to ask for help and not just, looked in the books or drowned myself in different videos and books as well.
You can easily drown though.
Yeah.
It's so easy to drown because there's so much that you need to know. And you feel like you need to take responsibility for your own learning. And it's so different to A levels and being in high school. You've got complete autonomy and responsibility for your learning, and you've not got people sort of checking up on you. Your lecturers and your professors aren't necessarily having one-on-one conversations with you. But like you've actually said to me in the past, is that you spent £9,000 on your university degree, utilised the resources right in front of you. And one of those is to reach out to people I mean, I work at a university, or I've stopped working there now, but I was at King's College London teaching. And if a student reached out to me, I would absolutely 100% make time for them. So I think people underutilize that as a resource because they think that the professors don't have time, or sometimes you do email and you don't always get responses. But it's a case of going to the office hours or the opportunities that they do give and then asking those right questions, because obviously it's made a massive difference to you. So awesome. I love that. The second strategy that I wanted to get into for today's episode was to talk about how you have said yes to so many opportunities. So let's dive into what you've done from an extracurricular point of view as a pharmacy student. So you've joined BPSA, obviously, and as a member, and now you're on the executive committee.
Mm-hmm.
You've also been heavily involved with the Swansea Pharmacy Society. So maybe take us back to the beginning where you weren't involved with anything and what motivated you to get involved and where you started.
Of course. So, funnily enough, it's actually so crazy that I can share this story because at the beginning of the degree, I just told myself I was going to come in here, sit in like the lecture hall, take my notes, get my degree, become a pharmacist, and then just live my life. Extracurricular activities were not on my mood board. They were not on my agenda. They were not on my diary. But basically in the beginning, so Swansea University is quite new for pharmacy. We've never had a pharmacy course. And so I was part of the first cohort of students to actually, be part of the pharmacy program. And one of our lecturers introduced it to us and was like, it's really nice if you guys as students have a pharmacy society. It'd be really nice for you guys to connect with one another outside of the labs, outside of the course, just to enjoy and also just foster relationships with one another. And I remember a message was put in the chat and there were questions about, who wants to join the society? We need a treasurer, we need a secretary, and we need a president to basically set up the society. And it was done on a first come, first serve basis. And so it was just a case of if you opened the chat in time, you put your name down and that was it. And I remember looking at the different names and I noticed they were all males, or men rather. And I weirdly enough, put this message in the chat. I was like, oh, where's the female representation in this? I guess you could say I put it as a joke, but also as a serious question because where was the female representation? Fast forward a couple months later, the society is now setting up and the president at the time, or the one who was running to be president, Harvey, John, he then messaged me and was like, oh, you're still interested in the society? There's a couple of roles available if you'd like. And I was like, I shouldn't, but you know what, I might as well. So I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'd be interested in one of the roles. What's available? And he was like, oh yeah, there's vice president available if you're interested. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went for a vice president. And then from there, Harvey and I started to set up the society. We got approval from the student union, and then we became an official society within the last few months of first year. So we decided that actually we'll become official in terms of events in our second year of studies because it made a bit more sense. But I thought, well, we've just had a first year together. It would be nice if we had a little celebration to, mark the end of the first year. So Swansea being notoriously known for its beaches, we went down to the beach with a couple of cakes, couple of drinks, and then just had a quick celebration just to celebrate the end of the year, which was really nice. And then second year came and, we started getting involved with the Pharmacy Society. It was set up and it was something that was in practice. So we were promoting events. We had an icebreaker social where second years and first years and also foundation years, because pharmacy at Swansea also offers a foundation program, came together in the local, one of the bars or the student union sites on campus and just chat, mingled, got to know one another. And that was really nice. And then within the society, I saw that there was a platform for each of us to, raise issues, but also express ourselves as individuals, our cultural, spiritual, physical, mental, whatever, as ourselves in the society. And so I started to take on the EDI approach of, promoting different events such as like Black History Month or International Women's Day, South Asian Heritage Month, through the society. So the students were aware of this and also felt comfortable in their own rights as a member of the society. And then as I was doing this, I was seeing more visions, seeing more about the society, not just from a Swansea perspective, but also from different pharmacy schools across the UK. And I noticed, okay, well, majority of these have EDI officers or welfare officers. And then I started to think about, okay, well, it's great that I've got this position now, but what more could I do for the society? Because it's been starting up and I don't want it to be something that is just because me and Harvey are there or me and the current committee are there. So, that's why it's there. I wanted to make sure that there was a legacy for the society such that when we did leave, there was someone else to continue it, because it was a benefit, not just for myself and those there at the time, but for all students in general. And so I said, okay, let me run for president. And I was successfully elected. And my team and I, we've kind of spoke about the idea of having more members on the committee, because at the time it was just the president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and a social media officer. So then we decided to open up the roles to a social secretary, a EDI officer or a quality diversion and inclusion officer, an education and welfare officer, and then eventually we added a sports officer as well, because we wanted to foster relationships with Cardiff to do like varsity and inter uni competitions. And then from there, I continued on to build on the legacy that I wanted for the society, just to make sure that, whatever happens, students will still be able to have that society and that community within Swansea.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And all while studying as you normally would do. And pharmacy is not the type of degree where you've got a lot of free time.
No.
It's pretty full on. So that was one aspect of you just getting involved, saying yes, trying something new, and really just diving into maybe what felt like the unknown compared to a high school sort of A-level GCSE experience in school. And I love that. And like you said, in your kind of school days, in parents' evening, you were told that maybe you were one of the shyer students, or maybe you didn't ask as many questions. And it seems that university has brought out a different side of you. And I love that. That's really exciting. And community when it comes to pharmacy is really important. I've discovered that personally through my own journey. When I was a resident, the community of all the resident pharmacists was really valuable to staying alive during a really tough few years of residency. But now, obviously, having my podcast and my online community is really, really important to me. But attending events and things like that, where we meet other people who are doing different things within our profession. And it really gets to showcase what we're doing within our profession, but also we can connect and get other ideas from other people, learn about different cultures, where people are working in different practice areas, and give us inspiration to do all of those things that they're doing as well. So the Pharmacy Society was just one role that you had. You joined the Pharmacist Defence Association, the PDA, as a student rep. So when did that happen?
So that actually happened at the BPSA 81st Annual Conference in Portsmouth. The PDA had a stand and they were recruiting. They were asking, oh, do you know what the PDA is? Would you be interested in becoming a rep? I had heard of the PDA before, as one of their representatives came to uni and basically told us what they were about in terms of being a union for pharmacists, pharmacy students and trainees, and also just being the voice if they needed that voice. And so speaking with the representative at the stand, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm kind of interested in advocacy. I'm interested in standing up for people if they need it, being that extra voice if anyone needs it. So I was like, okay, cool, let me register as a PDA rep. And then from there, I had a discussion with Hannah Baker, the organising assistant for pharmacy students and the student reps at the PDA. And from there, it's basically history.
And what's the role that you have as a student rep? What do you actually have to do, and how much work is it? Because you've already got so much going on and you've decided to take on the additional responsibility. So how much time do you spend and what do you do?
It's quite a flexible role. So the main role is to promote the work of the PDA to students and to remind them, one, to renew their membership yearly, and then to just remind them that the PDA is there to offer support and help if they need it. So we meet regularly, about every other month or dependent on the situation or dependent on the topics brought up by students. And then it's just an opportunity for students, let's say they have any issues which aren't going to be able to be solved uni-wide, or maybe it's a national issue. I know there's been a lot of talk about placements in students recently, so that's something that we've been talking about within the PDA. So it's just a case of having those meetings and also getting the voices of students. So asking around, maybe sending a feedback form if they've got anything to suggest or to say. And then if there's any events that the PDA is holding, just to let them know and just inform students so that they can attend, and if they need to, also speak their voice there as well.
Oh, amazing. Is there anything specific that you've learnt about the PDA that you maybe didn't know about before actually becoming a student rep?
I think it was just about the trade unions. So I've heard and listened to a lot of talks about what a trade union actually is, and what that means for pharmacy students, but also pharmacists. And yeah, I'd say that's mainly what I've learned from the PDA.
And they focus a lot as well on like the health and well-being of pharmacists. I love that students are actually taking the opportunity to feed back information back to the PDA so that they can implement changes or, again, be the voice and try and support, obviously, changes within pharmacy schools and for pharmacists once they qualify too. Awesome. I love this. So many exciting things going on. How do you manage your time? Let me ask you, how do you manage your time? Because you've got everything going on. What are your biggest sort of tips or takeaway messages for students?
It's not easy. I wish I could say it was. I think it was just a case of coming to a balance and knowing what it is that I wanted to do. I think initially it's easy to see all these opportunities and be like, wow, I want to get involved in everything, but it's not everything that you can get involved with. And I had to learn that the hard way. There were many more opportunities that I did want to, put myself up for, but I had to realize, well, what is it that I want to achieve? And that's my advice to all students, that whatever role you're going to go for, ask yourself, what is it that I want to achieve? Can I do it through this role? In terms of managing time, I think it's all about a diary. I I live and breathe my diary in terms of just, adding my little different check boxes and asking myself what I want to do each day. And then, just making a list and then hopefully ticking off at the end of the day as well.
Awesome. So before we dive into the next part of this episode, I want to share something I've been absolutely loving lately. I bought these blue light blocking glasses recently from a company called OcuShield. I'm going to wear them for you, actually. So I've been wearing these for the last few months and I'm absolutely obsessed. As a pharmacy student or even a pharmacist, we're always staring at screens. And for me personally, I'm always also using these in the evenings when I'm working on the podcast. And I've been feeling super guilty about it because I've been adding on the extra screen time and it's been impacting my sleep quality. So I treated myself to these glasses and I've been wearing them every day when I get home from work. I find them that they're quite stylish, as you can see, but they also block out the blue light that's really harsh and can negatively impact your sleep cycle and cause eye fatigue. And I've noticed a massive difference to my sleep quality, and I thought I might share a little tip with you. I found a 20% off family and friends discount code on their website, which you can access from the link in the show notes. So give it a go and let me know what you think. Now let's get back to the episode. So let's dive into strategy number 3, which is actually all about personal development, because I think that you have, in your journey, focused on the bigger picture, not just getting through pharmacy school, not just surviving and finding ways to actually thrive. So when you talk about personal development, the first thing that I wanted to ask, because I know that you journal a lot and you love your diary. So can you dive into how you utilize that diary and how you actually manage personal development from the point of view of reflection and journaling?
Right. So I initially got into journaling back in, I think, 2021 or 2020, when I was doing Bible studies. So I've started to get a bit more deeper into my faith and as a Christian. And I wanted to kind of transform how I went about my Bible study, because it was great, reading it and then, taking a message from it, but I wanted to delve deeper. And so I found journaling and I, use it as a tool in terms of helping me to reflect. There was different methods that I used in the context of Bible study, but then as I was going about it, I realized there's more that can be done with journaling. It's not just specific for Bible study. It can also be used for personal development, as you mentioned, and also just my overall life. And so I started to reflect a lot more, and I used journaling in that essence. So I thought about situations I had been through or emotions that I was feeling, and just delved a bit deeper and spoke out about how I felt. And one thing I found with journaling was by doing so, I was able to kind of take thoughts from my head, write them into a piece of paper, and I could actually see it with my eyes and allow, because it's been taken out of my mind, I would allow new thoughts to come in. And it was really refreshing because it provided new perspectives into situations, and also just helped me, tackle whatever difficulty I was going through, but also allowed me to appreciate and have practice gratitude more in life. And one thing that I've done or adopted recently was not just journaling in my specific journals, but also in my diary. So the day-to-day diary that I would put all my checklist in. I have this new concept where I go green for gratitude. So at the end of each day, I just go back and think about what's happened in the day and just write in green the things that I'm grateful for, the things that I'm thankful for. And it really improved my outlook on life, because I think it's sometimes really overwhelming to look at all these lists of things that you need to get done. And maybe one day you've just felt really down or just been tired, you deserve a rest. And so I kind of look back and I'm like, oh wait, I know I should have done all of these things. I haven't been productive. But by doing this green for gratitude thing that I've been doing, it's allowed me to see that actually, okay, well, I didn't do all the things I had planned out to do, but yeah, I still had a good day and there's still things to be grateful for. And that in itself is something that's powerful, and I should not take that for granted.
Oh my God, Martina, you're a legend. I love talking about journaling, and a lot of people know me as someone who likes to write things down, and I have talked about it a lot on the podcast. But I'm just so impressed that people of your age are using it now, because I think when I was a student, or even in the first few years of being a pharmacist, I did not have this in-depth knowledge about journaling as a superpower, and also understanding that you can use gratitude to your advantage. And some days you do feel like you've done loads of things, but you don't feel like you've been successful. And that's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens when you brain dump everything onto paper is like a magical transformation that I think people who don't do it don't realize. Now, you don't have to write it. Obviously, people can use an app or document it in their notes and, free type it if they want to, or they can actually use their voice. I know my husband uses his voice as a kind of note taker as well as a journal as well. He likes to dump his thoughts through speaking, which is much easier for him, while I like to 100% put pen to paper. And I haven't used it as much in my younger years, but I use it all the time now. I most recently bought Stephen Bartlett's 1% Diary, and every week I have to sit down and look at 3 goals that I want to achieve within 90 days. And I know what those goals are because I started them in January. One of them is actually to do with my yoga routine and trying to do a forearm stand, which I've been working on. One of them was about managing my finances better because it's something that I want to improve. And then the other one was about deepening my connection with my family members. And then every single week, you look at 1% changes that you can make every single day for each of those goals. Now, you don't have to do something towards each goal every day, but you can definitely work on at least 1 or 2. So a 1% change isn't massive. If I give the example of improving my finances, one day could actually just be to transfer £20 from my account into my holiday fund. So I'm just making a transaction. So every month I do like to transfer money into a holiday pot. So that in itself, just that action of getting on my app and spending 1 minute making that transfer is my 1% towards making better choices when it comes to my finances. I have got a couple of books from the library about saving money. So I read 10 pages of each of those books every day, and that helps me to understand more about what I could be improving, what changes I could make. I'm also working towards helping my 7-year-old to understand what it is to have money, spend money, save money, because every time we go out and she asks me for something and I have to say no, whether it's, toys or the waste of money that she asks me when it's £6 to buy a magazine from the supermarket, and I feel so bad saying no, but at the same time, she has to understand like where the money goes and how valuable it is. How can I teach her how to do all of these things? And how can I do it so that she has good practice from a young age? So all of these things are going through my mind, and you always think, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, I need to do that. But making these 1% changes, and they're so small, can make such a significant impact. And I have done yoga every single day for over 90 days now because of the 1% diary, and it's just making a massive difference. But gratitude at the end of the day is also so valuable, because sometimes there are days when I get home, I feel like I've done loads of things, but they're not necessarily the things that I wanted to achieve. But taking that step back and actually saying, okay, what were the good things that happened, whether they were intentional or not? Like, be grateful that maybe Sanjay helped me to do some laundry, or he cooked the dinner before I got home so I didn't have to do it, or he helped me to put one of our kids to bed in the evening to give me free time to do yoga or whatever it is that I wanted to do. Like, that in itself has been really, really valuable for me. But as a pharmacy student, I think the task list is endless. And it will always feel endless. Even when you're on summer holidays, you're thinking about all the things you need to do to prepare for September when you come back to uni, or the placements or the internships or the applications that you have to do. When you're in third year, you're thinking about oral, you've got your dissertation, you've got your lectures. I mean, it's overwhelming. So I think being able to put pen to paper or writing in a diary and brain dumping things so they come out of your brain and they just go onto paper. And when you visualize it as well, you can then put them into different categories and make smaller sort of checklists. And I love a checklist, and I draw a little square, and I love my little tick box. I know you're loving that too, Martina. Every student does. And it just makes it easy, and you feel good when you take it off, you know? It feels really powerful that you've done something good and you've worked towards your goals. And I can see that obviously that has been quite transformative for you. I think when you look at personal development, and on the topic of the strategy that we're talking about in terms of tips, you're now the annual conference organizer for BPSA, which is awesome. Tell us a little bit about what you do for organizing the conference, and how do those actual skills link to becoming a pharmacist, and what skills you would use in a pharmacy role?
Yeah. So the annual conference organizer role is, at first it seems a bit like very straightforward. You just plan a conference, but one thing you have to remember is you're planning the big conference, the flagship event of the association, and that is not small. There's different parts you need to do. So it's organizing the speakers, organizing the social nights, organizing the venues for the day events, amongst many other things. And I think for me anyway, the couple of things that I've learned are, first and foremost, time management, because you're not just managing your time or your co-organizer's time, but also the time of the executive team, and also those who are attending, but in addition to that is the speakers as well. There's just so many different components, there's so many different people that are going to be impacted by it, that you can't just think in your time zone, but you also have to think in the time zone of, if we look at the speakers, for example, you have to speak to them, reach out to them in advance. You need to arrange a time that works out for them, their schedule, their work. They need to also get annual leave in advance. So it's all about, making sure that there's different timescales in terms of when you reach out to them, and also just confirming details as well, so that they're aware in advance and can get the necessary cover if needed. In terms of time management as well, in the context of the venues, speaking to them, also checking, okay, well, when does a deposit need to be paid? When do you need to know the numbers by? When do you need to know the dietary requirements by? There's just so many different organizing components to the annual conference. But it's been a lovely experience so far, and I genuinely wouldn't take it back. In terms of other or additional skills, communication is one key thing. You need to know how to communicate to students, and students, sponsors, speakers, because each of those different categories that are involved in annual conference will take something different from annual conference. For students, they want to know, well, what's the benefit? Why should I attend? So you can talk about networking, you can talk about professional development, you can talk about a whole list of things, but is that what they actually want to receive? So you need to know how to communicate in a way that they can receive, that they could see the benefit from it. Because obviously everyone always talks about when you come to annual conference, you can see it, but it's not just a case of coming to it. You need to get the people to come to it. So how do you get them to come to it it's the communication that is key. In terms of speakers, what do they want to hear from annual conference? They probably want to see the impact that they're going to have in terms of venues and accommodation and all these different sponsors and stakeholders that are involved with annual conference. Everyone wants something different from annual conference, and annual conference can give that. They just need to see what it is that they can get, and communication is one of the key things with that too.
Awesome. So you've got to be really organised. You've got to be good at managing your time, which obviously you're a pro. And you've got to have good communication, which are all amazing skills to pharmacy in general. I think you've also underestimated how much of a leader you are and how you need to take ownership of such a big event and what you're doing. And you're gaining a lot of experience in leadership that you're not necessarily maybe thinking of it that way. And students underestimate how much you can do in terms of leadership opportunities at this age, but you always think of it as something that people do when you're, 5-6 years qualified, but you're starting now. I think you'll probably delegate tasks to other people as well, whether it's someone within the executive team. You obviously have multiple area conference organisers, so you work with Harvey. So between the two of you have to delegate and negotiate who's doing what and who, also looking at what skills each one of you has and then maximising each person's skill set, right? Mm-hmm. And these are all things that you'll need when you go into your kind of full-time pharmacist role when you qualify. So there is so much benefit of getting involved with extracurricular activities outside of pharmacy. And what I would say is that if you are a student listening, it doesn't have to be pharmacy related. You could become a member or join an executive committee of anything in university, whether you're inspired by sports or by music, or you've got, a specific hobby or a talent. It's just looking at what you're doing and thinking about the transferable skill that links back to pharmacy, because those skills that you're using within your pharmacy community, the communication, the leadership, the delegation, time management, organizational skills, they can be applied anywhere. So it's really exciting that you've been getting involved. And I'm so excited to see your journey. I'm going to ask you one last question, which is, looking into the future, what are your passions now that you've been through multiple years of pharmacy as a student, and where are your thoughts as to what you're going to do as a qualified pharmacist?
Wow, that is a question. I think for me, I do have a passion for pharmacy and also just improving the way things are laid out in terms of the workforce, but also just patient experience. I think I'm a very affectionate but also thoughtful person. I always think outside the box at times and just try and see other people's point of view as well. I try and see what they're experiencing as if I'm experiencing it as well. And so I think that nature would put me in a really good position in terms of dealing with patients, a vast array of patients. In terms of future directions, obviously I'm graduating God willingly this summer, going on to do my foundation training year in a community pharmacy. Will then God willingly qualify after passing the exam, and I'm still looking around. I think I know I have feelings or thoughts as what sector I want to go into, but I'm still just scoping the area and seeing what's available. But I do see that I probably would at one point take another leadership role within pharmacy. Not even just, for the title or for the role, but just for the improvement that can come out of it. I think I have very fresh ideas and I'd love to, bring that to a space where it's possible to be implemented.
Awesome. I love that. And thank you so much for your time today. You've come all the way to my home and spent obviously some time with me, and your family actually came as well, which is so exciting. It was like a proper experience for the day. And I really appreciate everything that you've given our audience today. A lot of students should benefit from the information and the inspiration that you've given. So I just want to send a massive thank you your way for making the time for me.
Thank you for having me, Anisha. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Here's a mistake most people make when choosing a supplement: not considering the source of the ingredients. Many supplements use synthetic vitamins within their ingredients. This means they have been made in bulk in factories to mimic natural vitamins. They are chemically identical to vitamins found in nature and often more cost-effective and widely available. However, and this is the most important point to remember, natural supplements and those that come from plants, fruits, or other natural sources have additional benefits and often contain extra nutrients, fibers, and plant compounds that support your overall health, and they are generally easier for the body to absorb. Check out thenakedpharmacy.com, where you can find naturally sourced supplements for your health and well-being. Use code PD20 at checkout for 20% off your purchase.